Alright, you guys. I don't even know what part we're on. I think it's 5. I'm gonna label the videos as such, but I'm gonna quit announcing it as such. This thing has become a nightmare from a mobile mechanic who worked on it. So you guys can see I have a tap in here. We're chasing these threads because he used an impact gun and cross-threaded the shit out of those when he replaced the motor mounts. Pardon my language. I've got a broke mount in the rear main housing right here. There's a bolt broke off in the back that we've got to try to get out. Lucky the whole housing comes off, and I've got to try to figure out how to fix it. I might be able to get a hold of the bolt, pull it out. It's an M6 thread. I think it's 6 by 1.0 or 1.25. Don't quote me on that. So we got to get that out. You guys will notice back here I've got heater hoses replaced that I'm replacing. This is all not part of the 5-speed swap, but I thought I should tell you guys what I'm doing. So when I put these videos out, you see all the trials and tribulations I'm going through, fixing something else that somebody's worked on. So right now we're chasing this thread. It's a 10 by, hold on y'all, I got a bolt right here. It tells me what thread I bought. So I can't remember off the top of my head. This is a 10 by 1.25 30 millimeter bolt that fits in here. That's what these ones are. So I've got a new bolt from grade 8. It's not a grade 10 like what's in there, but it'll be plenty strong for holding the transmission. So we're chasing it, and when you're cutting threads, you want to work the tap down a couple turns and then back it out to make sure it cleans itself out. We're going to clean those threads up. You guys can see I've already got the manual block separator plate over here, and I know I'm jumping around because I forgot to record tonight as I started on this. I'm at the point kind of where I wanted to start getting things done, and I hadn't really taken the time to try to jump in tonight. So tonight's goal, we're going to undo this distribution block. We're going to put a new fresh gasket in here because I had coolant on top of the old trans and I don't know where it's coming from, and I've got all the parts. Then this coolant line up near the throttle body has got a stupid worm gear or screw clamp. We're going to replace that with a spring clamp because this does not fit with the existing hoses that are already mounted here. It interferes with the spring clamps, and I'm a fan of spring clamps because they tighten up instead of, as the hose shrinks, instead of a screw clamp that can come loose. You guys can see in this picture that I started mocking up the throttle, the intake, and that's because the old previous intake was messed up. So slowly but surely we are getting a bunch of random videos out that probably make no sense, but we're back at it. We're back at the 5-speed swap. We're getting things prepped. I painted all the trans brackets that hold the transmission, and I'll show you guys those. I'll lay those out and show them to you here shortly. We have to press the pilot bearing. We have to get the electronics or the main wiring harness and get that at least in the vehicle through the interior. We can get our ECU mounted. There's a bunch of little things we can do. So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to start chasing these threads. And I know a tap and die set would have a handle for this. But the reality is if you have a crescent wrench that fits it tight, you can cut threads just the same way. And I'm not going to do this verbatim or the whole have you guys watch me turn this. But we are cutting threads all the way through, and I should be almost through. I've been doing this for a hot minute now. So you guys, anytime you buy a used car, you walk into a headache. I just so happen to get a lot of video content out of this for other things. You guys have seen how to put a B-series clutch master in here even though it interferes with the wipers. You guys watch me do a motorcycle clutch reservoir in place of that because it works better with the stock clutch and it's a lot cheaper. Here coming up off this video, we're also going to be doing the suspension soon because the previous mechanic who touched this has also stripped all the end links out. He stripped the nuts for the end links, so we got to cut those off. We're going to use Ford Escape end links because they're thicker, and we're going to put some OG Takiko Blue and T&S springs on this, and we got some fresh Falcon tires. So let me get this tap out of here. We should have some fresh threads in there. we're doing a lot of things. So we got, hard to see, let's try to get a light on this. Fresh threads, hard to tell. The only way to really tell, take a clean bolt. I'm going to use an OEM bolt, and it threads right in. So we'll be good when we go to put this bracket on. We're doing a lot of tweaks, a lot of upgrades while we're doing this. A lot of repair work, stuff to make life simpler, stuff to fix broken stuff, you name it. So, let me get in here, figure out where I want to go after I got that bolt done. I'm waiting on, I got to figure out a way to pull that housing and fix that without damaging anything else. So I'm thinking next, we'll pull these hoses, we'll get, no, I already got the coolant out of here. We'll get these lines dropped. I might not even have to drop these lines. And then we will unbolt this, clean it, and put a fresh gasket in it. And I have the OEM Mazda parts gasket for that. And like I said, this went from a trans swap to a, oh crap, I gotta fix a bunch of things from the previous mechanic and the owner who didn't know what the hell the mechanic was doing. You guys, if you guys are not doing your own work, you wouldn't be watching this video, obviously. But if you do pay someone out, make sure you really do your due diligence and look into what they've got, what reviews are out there. There's a lot of shady folks out there who act like they know what they're doing. This water distribution block, I don't know the exact name. It's got 4 bolts. Go right in front of the EGR tube. What a pain in the butt it is to get to, by the way. Anyways, 1 bolt down here, 1 back here, and 2 up here. We're going to take this off. We're going to take, I got a gasket assembly for it, or a gasket for it. We're going to replace that gasket. I'll show you guys what I use on some things, like water housings, etc. when I don't want to use RTV, because a lot of folks don't know about gasket cinch, and it's kind of like a gasket glue. It works similar to RTV without the big old thick mess. It kind of helps if you ever have to remove it too. A lot of times with gasket cinch, I'm able to remove that part if I need to, inspect it, and then use a gasket cinch to seal it right back up. Let me get that. Let me get the gasket, and I'll show you guys what we're working with. So this is the gasket cinch. It's now made by Edelbrock. It used to be made by somebody else, but I got this at my local O'Reilly's. If you guys want to use RTV, use RTV. I just prefer using this stuff. And then we have our gasket for that housing. I was trying to find the part number. Oh, hello. Part number FS 02-15-169. And that'll fit this housing here. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I already have it apart, and I wanted to make sure I get everything sealed up properly and accordingly. That way we shouldn't have any more leaks. So we have the housing off. 4 bolts. This is really a distribution block. I'll get you guys a view inside the head. It's kind of crazy. It leads to all the passages and stuff. So we're going to lay this down here. I've already sprayed this with brake clean and wiped it down, so there's no contaminants. Same as the head. So we're going to get our gasket cinch. We're going to put a light coat on the housing, set the gasket down. Then we're going to put a light coat on the other side of the gasket. And you guys can put it right on the gasket as well. But this is where I'm at. Let me get this package open and we'll lay our first coat down. So you guys can see there's just a little brush in there. Take some of it and just cover it. Like so. And then you're going to take your gasket and put it on there. So you guys, paper sticks to it too really easily. So we're going to take the gasket, just line it up with the holes. And then we're going to take a little more. And I've got it over here just because I don't want to knock it down. Stuff is not easy to find. I mean, you can get it on Amazon too. Um, O'Reilly had it in the speed section, in their speed parts wall. So we just glue this on like this. And like I said, it's just a gasket glue. It's not a sealant like RTV. So we got that on. Now we're going to stick this back on the motor. The engine, if you guys want to stay correct. Because Lord knows somebody might say, oh, well, a motor is electronic and an engine's combustion. There's always that one person. And when you're putting your lid on these, make sure it's clean. Don't let gasket cinch get in between this and the lid, because it will dry out over time. And that's mainly the reasons I go through it so quick, because I forget to clean it out. So we're going to set this on the housing, or on the head, and then we'll get the bolts in. Alright. So you guys can see, sorry, I was just making sure the camera is right, where I'm at. I'm going to start with the top bolts, just because that bottom bolt by the EGR tube is kind of a pain in the butt. So we're going to move this hose out of the way. And we're going to get this lined up in here. And I'm fighting it just because the hose over here that I can't have. Alright. So, and the gasket stayed where I needed it to. And we can put this one in because this one's easier to get to too. These are 12mm bolt heads. Just forgot to mention that in the beginning. This one is the one that's hard to get to. As you can see, it's right behind this EGR tube. So now that we got these bolts started, you don't need to Loctite these. You want to leave these ones, just snug them up, good and proper. If you Loctite them, you guys are going into an aluminum head with an aluminum housing, and it can just be a pain in the ass later on if you have to remove it. I'm not a fan of impact guns unless I'm pulling tires, y'all. So you guys hardly see me doing it unless it's something that's stuck really good. And case in point of the transmission mounts being messed up on this vehicle, you guys can see what impact guns can get you, kind of trouble they can get you into. So if I had to guess, I'm only going about 15 to 20 foot-pounds. Just good enough, a little over tight, hand tight. And you can see as you tighten these up, the rest will square off. And use a 6-point so you guys don't strip these out. Now this one here is a little bit more of a trick. I'm going to run this one in by hand, and then I used a wrench actually to take this one out. And as I said, these are all 12mm bolts. And yeah, if I had more room, I would put a ratchet wrench on here, but I don't. So, you guys get a few minutes of me turning a bolt by hand, sorry. And then we'll get this one snugged up, and we'll call this a good replacement. And I could undo the EGR tube if I wanted to, but it seemed unnecessary to just get this done when I can work around what I have. So that's nice and snugged up, and we'll hit it with a wrench real quick, and we should be good to go. Alright, so I got my 12mm wrench. Just going to put it on here. Gonna make sure it's good and snug. This one too. And it doesn't hurt to go over them all with a wrench real quick. Pardon my arm being in y'all's way. These ones still were hair loose. So we're going to button them up. And okay, those are all tight. So now we can go ahead and put our hoses back on. You guys can see this hose down here in the bottom of the screen. and it's just going to push in. And these all have spring clamps. And I told you guys my thought process on the spring clamps. I think they're outstanding for the simple fact that they shrink with the tubing. So the tube gets hot and cold. The spring clamps will also tighten itself up and remain tight around the hose. So once that one's on, then you got your top hose here, and these just slide right on like so, and then now you guys might see there is a couple bigger hoses back here, and there is a hose clamp here. I'm taking this off. I'm going back to the spring clamp. Like I said earlier on, there's not enough room for it. And then we have to also put on our, sorry guys, where are we at? Upper radiator hose. That's all part of that junction. I have to get underneath the car too. There is also some push on fittings at the heater core, and I got to replace those because they're leaking. So we'll get down there next. Alright, we're going to start closing up this video. I'm just doing repair work. I replaced these two heater hoses. They go down to the firewall. Try. You guys can see them. They go to a pair of bulkhead fittings that look like this. And these normally have a clip on them here and an O-ring. Well, what happens is the O-rings take a crap, and then these start to leak. So we replaced them with OEM Mazda parts, and trying to make sure I find the right one. This is one of them, and then this. Hold on a second, y'all. This is the other one. Those are the two part numbers. One's a 90 and one's a straight fitting. And I just used some Gates hoses. I did have an issue with this bottom hose rubbing on the intake bracket, and all I did was take some take some 5/8 hose, about a 6-inch section, cut it down the middle, and then zip tied it to create a buffer. I still have to get a spring clamp for this hose here that goes down to a T-fitting in there. You guys can see it goes right there. But I wanted to get a spring clamp. If not, I'll just get another screw clamp, even though I'm not a fan of them. We're going to button it up. This video's getting kind of long. I'm getting tired. I got to get to work in the morning. So, next project will be doing the rear main housing, getting the electrical ran into the vehicle, and once all that is squared up and the electrical is inside the vehicle, then we'll get the rear transmount on, flywheel, pressure plate, and start working our way to getting a trans in this. All these little errors create for a lot more work, but I appreciate y'all hanging out, watching the videos. Have a good one. God bless.